As I said on yesterday's episode, we are in high rumor mill at this point in the NFL offseason, and we got a new rumor surrounding the Arizona Cardinals potentially being interested in Bears quarterback Tyson Bagent. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I do think it has more legs than Jalen Johnson potentially being cut, so we're going to talk about that. And Maxx Crosby just went on record praising Caleb Williams as they appeared on a podcast. We're going to break down everything and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Eric Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And many people will know, as I said on yesterday's episode, we're in high rumor season. And, while we're going to talk about everything surrounding the Chicago Bears here, our job, at least I feel that part of the job we have here is to talk about everything, but also let you guys know what's probably bullshit versus what's a legitimate rumor, right? Or what's a legitimate possibility of it happening. Yesterday, with the Jalen Johnson being cut thing, that was bullshit. Right, I don't think there's any way the Chicago Bears cut a cornerback like Jalen Johnson. Even if they did want to create the space, trading him is way more likely. But at that point, you don't trade somebody like Jalen Johnson just to create another hole elsewhere. And, somebody even left in the comments yesterday, they were like, yeah, I believe it, because you can cut Jalen Johnson, and then with the defensive line getting better, you can Nashawn Wright, you can re-sign Nashawn Wright at only a couple of million less than Jalen Johnson. Then on top of that, because reportedly Nashawn Wright's looking at about 17.5 million. It's only a few million less, but then on top of that, he's never nearly as good in coverage as what Jalen Johnson is. Some of y'all got to stop letting the rumors become your opinion, or trying to rationalize the rumors into sideways into opinion. But that's a story for another day, right? Our job here, as I was getting into, sometimes is to separate the real from the bullshit, but you have to discuss it all to get into it, right? And so I just want to be clear there. You'll never get, we'll never, I won't name the outlet. I'm going to try to stop calling out other content creators, but you're never going to get what some of the other content creators do as far as, I'm just going to try to sell you some bullshit so I can get some clicks. That's not what we do here, right? So if you want to hear, a bunch of rumors and me to blow smoke up your ass and tell you that it's a possibility, then, this ain't the place for you. But with that said, right, I want to get into this this rumor in regards to Tyson Bagent and the Arizona Cardinals potentially having some interest in Tyson Bagent. Now, this one came from Arizona Sports Radio, a 98.7 FM is what it was. John Gumbardo, I believe, was the guy that talked about it. He did mention that the Cardinals are intrigued by Bagent, and they could be looking for another starter, as they inevitably could move on from Kyler Murray. Now, them moving on from Kyler Murray isn't going to be a big surprise from anyone if they decide to do that, right? You look at Tyson Bagent and his rise. He signed as an undrafted free agent with the Chicago Bears in 2023. And the Bagent baddies started rising very quickly after because of Justin Fields and who he was as a quarterback. Now, for the last 2 years, Tyson Bagent has been behind Caleb Williams. And while the Bagent baddies have still tried to drum up some of that start Tyson Bagent thing, it never really gained traction. The Chicago Bears have never really thought about benching Caleb Williams. It's been clear that they are in the Caleb Williams business. Even with the rumors last year, what was it? If I'm not mistaken, somebody will correct me in the comments. Tyson Bagent is actually a more natural fit in Ben Johnson's offense, and thus Ben Johnson could seriously look to start Tyson Bagent. It never happened. It never was a legitimate rumor. It never was a legitimate thing that happened. This Bears team is committed to Caleb Williams and committed to his development. Now, on the flip side of that, the reason why this rumor may legitimately have some legs is that we do know Ryan Poles does try to take care of his guys. He does that. He is somebody who legitimately has a care about his players and them getting an opportunity. Tyson Bagent, if you go back to Hard Knocks, talked about that there are things that he wants to accomplish as a quarterback in the NFL, and he does have a goal of having that. And I think that points towards, if there is a opportunity to start out there for him when his contract is up at the end of this year, which he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, this upcoming season, then, the Bears could very well look to get something back in regards to value for him. Now, are they going to get a bunch of value for Tyson Bagent? I highly doubt it. I don't think so, right? But when you look at Tyson Bagent when he did start, 4 games in 2023, threw for 859 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, right? So there is something there with Tyson Bagent that he does have skill. Like, Tyson Bagent isn't some horrible guy. Now, he could very well just be good enough to be a career backup. And that is, he could be good enough to be a system quarterback. Maybe he's good enough to be a starting system quarterback if you get the right things there, right? So that's what you have to look at when it all comes down to this. And, that's something that you legitimately have to look at. So I think when you look at Bagent, he signed a 2-year, $10 million extension contract with the Chicago Bears before last season. So that means that he has 1 year, $5 million left remaining on his deal. And so we'll see what's going to be there. So, I think the extension can get up to $16 million based off incentives and things like that. But he hasn't seen a lot of action since, the Justin Fields was here. Tyson Bagent has not seen a lot of action because Caleb Williams has played those games. And so when you look at what could happen with Kyler Murray, the Cardinals, when it looks at, they could, if they do trade Kyler Murray, right, or get off of him or even waive him and cut him, they'll be stuck with a significant portion of his contract left to pay. So therefore, even though Kyler Murray made a Pro Bowl, let's keep in mind he signed a 5-year contract extension worth up to $230 million with $160 million guaranteed. That was before the 2022 season, right? So there you go. He still owed $52 million in 2026. And if the Cardinals can't find a trade partner for him, they're going to have to maybe eating up $54 million in dead salary cap by cutting him. That's per over the cap as well. So it would make some sense that if they are looking for a new gap starting quarterback to take a look at, Tyson Bagent is $4.7 million in 2026. That could be a really good trade option for the Arizona Cardinals if they do that. So this is one of those situations where time is going to tell if they're going to seriously move on from Kyler Murray. And even if they do, is Tyson Bagent the guy that they really look to pivot to, right? And that's the question here on what they're going to do. So we'll see. The Cardinals are an interesting point. We'll see what they end up doing. And, Tyson Bagent is a guy that, could have some interest around the league because of what the flashes that he has shown. And again, I'm not saying that somebody's going to commit to him to being their full-time, long-term starting quarterback. That's not what I mean by that at all. But you could very well see a situation in which it makes some sense to take a shot at somebody on a very cost-controlled contract for 1 year as a gap starter or whatever else you need, and then you may negotiate and win them in the offseason. So we'll see what happens there. At the end of the day, a lot of this is just speculative at this point in time because you just don't know. It's so much up in air with how it could go over a Chicago Bears season that you still got to figure it out. So we'll see what happens with that one. But the Bears will figure it out. They'll figure out what they're going to do. And, if the Cardinals do come calling, we'll see, right? And again, I don't expect the trade haul to be something huge. You're not going to get something huge in the trade haul for him at all. And you're probably not going to get something about Ryan Poles is finding meaning in the 7th round picking Kyle Manon guy, right? So if you research right, maybe you can, but I'm not expecting any type of significant return back for Tyson Bagent. But let me know what you guys think on that. Hearing that the Arizona Cardinals could have an interest in Tyson Bagent, do you think it makes sense for the Bears to explore that? What would you want back for Tyson Bagent? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. More rumors, though. And, of course, free agency. I feel like there's a lot of rumors around right now about the Chicago Bears and other safeties that they can go after. The recent one comes from ESPN's Matt Bowen, who did write an article on the top 50 free agents with Kamren Curl listed at 41st. And they listed at Kamren Curl as a option for the Chicago Bears in free agency, saying this: both of Chicago's starting safeties, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, are free agents, opening up some spots. In coordinator Dennis Allen's defense, Curl can play as an interchangeable safety and improve the Bears' run defense, and don't be surprised if the team brings back Byard to join them too. Now, we already know that Ryan Poles has basically buried the lead. He's shown that Kevin Byard is a player that he wants to keep here. I expect him to do a really good job at that. Kamren Curl, what does he offer for the Chicago Bears? Well, he's 26, 6'2", 205 pounds. This is a guy that played last season for the Los Angeles Rams. He played all 17 games last season. He played 16 the 2 seasons prior to that. As a matter of fact, he's missed 1 game in each of his NFL seasons, except for last season where he played all 17, and then his 3rd year in the league where he actually missed 5 games. Other than that, he's played every single game, every game but 1. So he's a pretty durable player with that said. He's never had he's only had 2 seasons where he's had over 100 tackles. He had 122 last year, 79 the year before that, 115 the year before that. He has 586 career tackles across 6 seasons in the NFL. He does have a career 5 interceptions in that, 8 sacks as well, 4 fumbles forced also. This is a guy that, again, he can definitely fit what the Chicago Bears are looking to do defensively, and he can step in and replace what Jaquan Brisker did. I keep going back to this part, and this is just, again, I'm a Bears fan. right? And same thing I said with Brian Cook yesterday when we talked about Brian Cook potentially being somebody that the Bears could take a look at to replace Jaquan Brisker. I love it when we have guys that develop and are able to stay here and grow as players, right? And I think when you look at Jaquan Brisker and what he's been able to do, there's no doubt that there's talent here. The only reason we're having any discussion on Jaquan Brisker potentially not being a Chicago Bear is because of the concerns over injuries and what that would look like if you give him a long-term contract. I want to be clear. That is the only thing that you're looking at here on why there's so much talk about the Chicago Bears not keeping Jaquan Brisker. Because a lot of these players in Cook and in Kamren Curl that we talked about are probably going to get similar money to what Jaquan Brisker is going to look out for. When you look at Curl as well, right, he had five passes deflected last season, 2 interceptions. We look at that for Jaquan Brisker, 8 passes deflected, only 1 interception, right? So it like there are some similarities there. I do think much like Jaquan Brisker, he can be used in run support. We've seen Jaquan Brisker sometimes, be blitz and lead us in sacks as well. I don't know if Kamren Curl is going to have that as far as leading us in, well, that was a season where we just didn't get a lot of sacks. So there's that part of it, right? But I just look at all this and I'm just like, same age, basically the same measurements. Jaquan Brisker is 6'1", 204 pounds. Kamren Curl 6'2", 205 pounds. So like you're replacing, and one could say, well, hey, that's a good thing because you're replacing a similar player that doesn't nearly have the injury concerns that Jaquan Brisker does have. And I'll say to you on that one, okay, cool, you're right. And they're basically the same age as well. They're basically exactly a month apart. Like they're so similar in not only body makeup and style, but also in exactly what they can do that, I mean, would we hate it, right? Now, chemistry isn't just about skill set. Sometimes it's about instincts and things like that. And Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard have a really great chemistry together. And there is part of me that would love to keep that. But it just goes back to what the overarching thing is when it comes to Jaquan Brisker. It just comes down to the injury thing. That is all this comes down to. It comes down to the injury. And that's the thing that the Bears have to look at and review. I know that a lot of Bears fans really do like Jaquan Brisker. They really do have an affinity and a respect for Jaquan Brisker because they've seen him grow here in Chicago and the player that he's turned into. And you should have an affinity for players that do that on your team, in your system. But at the same time, like, I understand it. And that's what the Bears have to ask themselves. We've talked about the options with Jaquan Brisker. You can try to sign him and work out maybe a shorter term contract. You can franchise tag him with the goal of, working out a more long-term option, or you can tag and trade him, where you franchise tag him, try to work out a contract. If that doesn't work, you trade him. Those are all options there. Or you can let him walk, which is still another option, especially if you feel confident that you have the ability to get one of those other guys in there, in a Cook or a Kamren Curl or those type of guys. So I don't shit on any of this. It really just comes down to, we don't know what Ryan Pohl's mindset's going to be. We do know he has to create cap space. We do know he has to create money. We know that we need to revamp the defensive line, but you also have to keep other things together. And that what you have right now in your safeties with Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker and what they've been able to do together as far as being inside the box, outside the box, add to flexibility for a Dennis Allen system. That's all legitimate and there. And if you're going to replace that, you're going to want somebody that can come in and pick that up and do that as well. And I guess we'll see what's going to happen on that one. But with that said, let's move on to the next topic. And so Maxx Crosby has been a hot button topic for Chicago Bears fans. And Bears fans are look at every single thing as a sign that Maxx Crosby could be coming to our beloved Chicago Bears. Well, Caleb Williams was on the Rush with Maxx Crosby podcast. And, the things that he said, of course, have gotten Bears Twitter and Bears social media very excited about the potential. He said this to Caleb Williams. Just to be open and honest, bro, like we talked about earlier, but respect at a different level, bro. You're one of those guys for sure, and you're just getting started. I don't even know you understand yet how good you can be, and that's the scariest part. You know what I mean? Just keep that mindset, keep doing what you're doing, and we're locked in forever. So keep doing your thing, bro. You need me, hit me at any time. It goes vice versa. Now, this is after they've shared mutual love before, those type of things. He gave big flowers to Caleb Williams. What I took that as is just respect as a competitor. You're giving respect to somebody that you actually did battle against. You actually disrupted, and the Bears reacted much better in the second half of that game and kind of nullified Maxx Crosby in that game. I think that there's a mutual respect there. Now, I'll say this. Of course, everyone's going to take everything that they can. With Maxx Crosby not necessarily being happiest with the Las Vegas Raiders, giving this praise to Caleb Williams, Caleb talking about Maxx Crosby before, they're going to try to use every hook that they can get to try to point towards Maxx Crosby coming to the Chicago Bears. I don't know if this podcast says any of that. I don't know if it does any of that. I would love for that to be the case, because pass rush is a massive problem for us. We had the fewest sacks of any team last year, only 35 as a team, so there's no doubt about that. But I do think some are reading too much into this interview, that they're looking far too into it when this is just a guy having a conversation with another competitor, another warrior that plays football, that they have a mutual respect and understanding of the love of the game of football. That's what I took it as. I'm not going to knock anybody that wants to see Maxx Crosby become a Chicago Bear. I want to see Maxx Crosby become a Chicago Bear. But it's going to take a lot more than chemistry on a podcast for Ryan Poles to be willing to trade for that massive contract and the massive haul that it looks like the Raiders want back in that reportedly is 2 first-round picks. So there's those things that you're looking at and those things that you have to fix and try to solve. And that's what it comes down to. So we'll see. Again, it goes back to Trey Hendrickson as well. Like, you still have a guy in Trey Hendrickson that is 31 years old, but you can get without giving up your draft assets. And that's the thing that we have to that we have to talk about as well. So getting into the last topic, right? Maxx Crosby love aside. The Bears and the Colts have now been mentioned as 2 of the teams that could be the favorite to land Trey Hendrickson in free agency. This comes from ESPN that reported that the Colts general manager, Chris Ballard, could make a bold move by landing the top free agent on the board. Reportedly, they could be willing to offer as much as $30 million to get him in there. Now, that is something that the Bears, I just don't see matching. Like, I just don't see them matching that. We'll see what happens there. But if that is what it truly they're willing to offer, I just don't know if the Chicago Bears can do it. I don't even know if the Colts have that much cap space. That can be a complete rumor. But according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, right, is that placing a franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson would be surprising. So it seems like the Bengals are ready to let this Maxx Crosby thing run whatever natural course it is, which is a really good thing there. So could Trey Hendrickson go back to the Indianapolis Colts? Right? Could it be a reunion there, or could it be a fresh start with the Chicago Bears? That's the thing that we're going to look at for. But it does seem like both the Bears and the Colts are 2 teams that do plan on putting the full court press on Trey Hendrickson once free agency does open, and that's smart, right? Like the Bears should try to explore every option. Sitting down with Trey Hendrickson to sit down, have a meeting, see what he does, see what the contract demands are with him and his agent. That's just smart business. That's what you should do regardless, and that's what the Bears are really going to have to try to take a look at if they want to really try to get him in here. But they're going to have competition, and we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. The Colts also finished with 39 sacks last year, which was 15th in the NFL, but not that much more than the Chicago Bears. Pass rushing is always going to be at a premium. An ability to get to the quarterback is always going to be at a premium, right? So we'll see what happens there. But whether the Bengals franchise tag Trey Hendrickson or not, we'll see. If they do franchise tag him and try to do the tag and trade scenario, that is something that we've seen other teams employ, and that's a good protection of your assets. But it seems like maybe they're ready to let it go its course. And if they are, they're going to be teams that are ready, even more than the Colts and the Bears, that they're ready to swoop in there and see what they can do to get Trey Hendrickson in the building. And we just got to see if the Bears are one that's able to come out on top, what they're able to offer Trey Hendrickson, what they're able to sell him on as far as the direction of their team, and then what does that mean for what he expects coming here. And so we'll see. But hopefully we get a resolution to it soon after free agency. It's one of the first things that Ryan Poles is probably going to try to address, and rightfully so. But that's it for today's episode, man. This is what a contender offseason feels like. This is all the speculation, all the rumors. It's going to be there. Elite pass rushers, you're going to want those things. Free agents, do they actually view the Chicago Bears as a destination? That's the thing. It seems like the league sees what the Chicago Bears are building here. Now we just gotta exceed in it. But drop your thoughts down below. Would you trade Tyson Bagent? Are you going all in on Maxx Crosby or Trey Hendrickson? And who is your must-sign safety in the offseason? Is it one of our own guys, or is it somebody else that you like to bring in? Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear Central. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.